Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel and welcome to a GT Sport Daily Race C strategy guide with a little bit of a twist, because in this one it's going to be more of a car guide rather than a strategy guide. And the reason for that is because the sort of general belief for this race, which is going to be at Fuji International Speedway in Group 1 with a specially provided car, is that it's going to be the Group C cars that we're going to be using. Now we've got 13 laps to get round, we have tyre wear at ×4 and fuel consumption at ×2, so it doesn't look like strategy is going to play too much of a factor in this one. The Group C cars that are available to us are the ones on the screen here. So we've got the Sauber Mercedes C9, we've got the Mazda 787B, we've got the Xjr9 from Jaguar, we've got the Porsche 962C and we've got the Nissan R92 CP. So that's 5 cars that will be available to us if it is indeed the Group C cars that are only available for this one. So before we get into sort of taking a close look at the cars, let's just talk about the strategy. There is literally no strategy for this one. It's an easy no stop in any of the cars that are going to be available. Tyre wear is only at ×4, that's probably an indicator that will be the Group C cars, because they do tend to kind of chew up their rear-tyres a little bit just with the amount of power that they've got. But even so, tyre wear is not going to be an issue for this one in these cars, and fuel at ×2. We're going to have more than enough fuel to finish the race. So what we're going to do in this one is actually sort of take a close look at the sort of 5 Group C cars. I've done a race distance in all of them, got myself up to speed in all of them, and I'll give you my thoughts as to how these cars perform over this race and what one I think is going to be the best. So first up we've got the Jagda Xjr9, famous for winning the Le Mans 24, I think it was in 1988 that won the race. I could be slightly wrong with that one, apologies if I am. Now this car is probably not the best representation of this one in terms of the performance that I've put it through. It was the first car that I chose to sort of do the race distance in. I did about 5 or 6 laps to get up to speed with it. So the finishing time and the best lap time I don't think are probably quite where the Jagda Xjr9 really is. Very, very solid handling car in this one, no issues with the tyre wear whatsoever. As I said, I do believe I could probably take around about 2 to 3, maybe even 4 seconds off the finishing time that's about to pop up on the screen here. So do bear that in mind when we get to the end of the video and we kind of discuss the pros and cons of each car. Next up we took out the Mazda 787B, also a winner of the Le Mans 24 Hours, famous for that famous rotary engine in the, I don't know if it's in the back or the front or where it is in this car, but screams like you wouldn't believe as you're sort of driving it, especially get up to sort of the peak revs on 5th and 6th gear. Now the Mazda sounds very, very dangerous around this track, but actually handles not too bad at all. I found it a lot better than the Jaguar at this point. As I said, probably because the Jaguar had the sort of disadvantage being the first car I took out. I took out the Mazda immediately after. All 5 of the cars do drive pretty similar around this track, so you do kind of learn from one car to the next in terms of the sort of braking points and the sort of base gear for each corner. But the Mazda 787B coming in a little bit quicker than the Jaguar, sort of maybe around about 2 times quicker a lap, maybe 3 times. Best lap though considerably quicker, and in terms of finishing time it's around about 3 to 4 seconds quicker. But we'll take a look at all the sort of the finishing times, best lap times and optimal times a little bit later in the video. So next up we've got the Porsche 962C. This is a 2-time winner of Le Mans. I think it was in 1986 and 1987 that it was to take those victories. Again, I could be slightly wrong with that, you can fact check me if you like. Now the Porsche is an interesting car around this track. It was without doubt the hardest one out of the 5 cars to drive. Very, very sketchy in this third sector that we're going through here. It seemed to suffer quite a lot of understeer into these sort of, I guess you could maybe kind of call them hairpins, and because you seem to be sitting just not quite right in the gearing, it was very easy to get too early on the throttle and chuck the back end out in this one. However, the lap times, once you kind of got to grips with it, were actually very, very competitive, and I could definitely see this car being capable of matching the very best. But in terms of sort of drivability and handling and just behaviour, this car definitely gave me the most troubles in my testing. But we come over the finish line there, and we shall get the finishing time for this one. I think it comes into a pretty similar finishing time to the Mazda 787B. In fact, there's a caveat for the Porsche that we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. So on to the Nissan R92 CP. I couldn't really find too much history on this car in terms of being a Le Mans winner, but a very nice car indeed, very nice. I think it sounds really good, this car. Certainly felt very, very safe compared to some of the other cars, particularly the Porsche and the Mazda. Not a whole lot of dramas through this twisty section here, but being safe, apparently it means you're also a little bit slower. So this one was struggling to kind of put down consistent quick lap times, but you can see from the best lap that we've done there on lap 12, and also from the optimal, that the lap time or the capability is definitely within this car. So certainly not to be ruled out. Coming out the final corner there, got to be careful on the throttle as you come out the last corner. That is pretty much the same for all the Group C cars. That last section is just not designed for them any way, shape or form, that is for sure. And you're going to have to be super careful throughout the race in that section. Finishing time there is on the screen again. As I said, we're going to look at all of them in a sort of little bit of a table once we've kind of gone through all 5 of the cars. And last up we have the Sauber Mercedes C9, or Salva, I'm never entirely sure how you're meant to say that. This car is a Le Mans winner, but I would say it's more famous for being the car where sort of Michael Schumacher applied his trade in the World Endurance Championships and kind of was spotted by Jordan and Benetton, which was to sort of kickstart his Formula 1 career. Now, I kind of had a sort of inkling before I did the testing in this car that this one was going to be the car to pick. Other people have been testing these cars, and this seemed to be the one that was they found to be the quickest. And I can kind of confirm that within my testing as well. It's not dramatically quicker than any of the other cars, but it just seemed to be easier to kind of put down those consistent and slightly lower lap times compared to the others. Certainly seemed quite strong in that third sector as well, just felt a bit more grippy, a bit more comfortable through there. So third sector is so important in Fuji. It's very easy to kind of lose time there, but it's also, if you can absolutely nail it, you can make up a lot of time. So here's a little bit of a table with the 5 cars on the screen. We've got finishing time, best lap, optimal lap and tyre wear. So in terms of best lap, the Mazda came in for 129.089. That was the best lap that I managed out of all 5 cars, and it also came in with the best optimal lap of a 128.921. But in terms of finishing time, that was the Mercedes Sauber C9 that kind of dominated with a 19.29.934. For the Porsche, I actually binned it on maybe about lap 7 or 8 and cost myself 6.5 seconds. So if you've maybe noticed earlier on in the video, the Porsche's finishing time was like 19.35, so I've kind of just calculated for that lap where I kind of made that mistake. And again, it kind of reiterates it was the only car I really had a severe moment like that. And I was saying earlier on how it just seemed to be the most difficult car to handle. In terms of tyre wear, the Nissan only came in at about 12%. The other cars all come in with a very similar figure. Tyre wear just isn't really an issue for any of the cars anyway, in terms of strategy. So for this one, really, I think all the cars are a viable pick. I think they're all competitive. The Sauber does seem to have the edge, so I suspect we'll see quite a lot of them come race day. One thing for this though is just get into a rhythm on the race pace, because you're going to see a lot of cars going flying off the track in this one, as people are just going to have a lot of trouble handling these cars. They are very difficult. It's very easy to get on the power, a little bit leery, a little bit heavily, and off you go. So to finish the video, we'll do a little bit of a lap guide. The quickest lap we managed out of all 5 tests was in the Mazda 787B. So approaching turn number 1, you're looking for the 150 metre board, down into second gear. So you're braking a little bit before that 150 metre board. You've also got a lamp post to the right hand side that you can also take a look at. I would recommend not going into anything lower than second gear in any of these cars, except for the chicane that we'll see. So coming into turn 2, you're looking for the 100 metre board, down into second, carry as much speed as you can, and then round 130R, car will try to understeer, so just be careful of that. Try to keep a nice tight line. So onto the back straight we come now. Just be very careful on the throttle as you come out any corner in these cars, and we're going to approach the chicane. So the Dunlop sign, you're braking just before that, down into first gear for the chicane just to get the engine braking. Clip that curb, up into second gear before you get into the sort of next corner, just to get that traction. Allows you to get a little bit more control, throttle control, and you're just going to feather the throttle, just be very gentle around this section. As I said earlier in the video, very easy to lose at time. You just want to kind of make sure you're clipping those apexes, and that's the best way to get around this section. Into the last corner, obviously several lines you can take around it. I do tend to take a tighter line, sort of compromise you getting on the throttle a little bit, but obviously the earlier you get on the throttle out the last corner, the more lap time you will gain. And that's a lap of Fuji International Speedway in the Mazda 787B. And that seems like a fairly good time to end the video, so hopefully it's been helpful in terms of sort of getting you prepped for this race that starts tomorrow. Or today, depending on when you're watching the video. Anyway, hopefully it's been helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.